It's day 12 of our 30-day New Year to Love You challenge. So it is once again one of our lovely wine, cheese, and yoga please nights. We will start off with a fabulous little Hatha yoga class, followed by a chat all about how we talk to ourselves. Now, last week we did a yin class, and it's nice to kind of shake up the styles of yoga because honestly, there are tons of different ways to practice your yoga, and you don't have to always do the same old thing. Hatha is kind of probably what most of us mostly consider yoga. Hatha or vinyasa, I probably feel like, are the two most often kind of we understand what yoga is. And in a Hatha, we usually hold the pose a little longer. We really concentrate on keeping our alignment in place, our body in the right shape. I will admit Hatha is a challenging one for me because I like to move so much. So you might be better at than I am. Maybe you can hold the position longer than I can. But hopefully you'll enjoy no matter what. Roll out your mat and let's get started. We will start standing near the top of our mat with our feet about hip distance apart. And I don't want you to worry about anything in particular right now. Just let your hands hang heavy for a second and close your eyes. Now, a standing pose at the beginning of a yoga class or a Pilates class, or really any class that you take with me, oftentimes we're not really thinking about it. We stand all day long without really giving much thought to it. But when we stand in a yoga class, it's called a mountain pose, Tadasana, and it's an active position. Instead of just letting your fingertips kind of, drape down by your sides, everything's nice and active. Everything is working. So let's start with our feet. Take a moment here and notice where the weight is in your feet. Is it more shifting towards your toes or your heels, maybe towards the right or left side of your body? It's not that there's a right or wrong. At first, it is good to notice, and then we want to bring it to center. Think about the soles of your feet and the little arches. It's almost like those arches are suction cupping to the ground. Feel your feet really connect with the earth. And as you do that, start to bring your awareness up your legs. Think of toning your inner thighs towards one another. Think about activating your thud. Think about the belly button pulling in just like we would in a Pilates class. It's like our little belt gets one notch tighter. Keep following your spine up your back to the place between your shoulders and open up across the chest. I envision two little strings attached to the sides of my shoulders, my arms lightly pulling away from one another. So I open up across the front of my chest. At the same time, I kiss my shoulder blades together behind my body. Keep following your spine up the length of your neck, and think of me holding your ears and lightly pulling your ears up to the sky. Now already, do you feel like you're in a more active pose? It's not just, a starting spot. It's not just, finding this area. You can think of this pose as a blueprint for your body. Each and every time we stand tall, we stand straight, we want to activate all the muscles like we are now. It doesn't matter what pose we're doing in our yoga class. Everything should be engaged as we kind of move along in our positions today. Blink the eyes open if you want to. Take a big sip of air in. A nice big sigh out, hopefully with a smile on your face. This time, inhale, let your shoulders lift up to your ears, finding a little mobility. Exhale, let them circle down the back. Again, inhale, lift them up. Exhale, circle them down. One more time, roll them up. Exhale all the way down, pause. Now again, it's like I'm holding your ears, I'm pulling your ears up. You're opening across your chest, and now think about reaching your fingertips actively down towards the ground. Often the more you can think of these kind of opposite and opposing actions happening, the more we know we're turning on all the right muscles in our body. So I am physically trying to reach my head up as high as I can, but at the same time, I'm reaching those fingertips down so I keep everything nice and engaged. Take one more big inhale here. Easy breath out. Inhale, lift your hands up high over the head. Exhale, flip the palms and actively press your hands down right back by your sides. Inhale, swim the fingertips up, up, up. Exhale, soften them down. One more time, big inhale, hands lift high. This time, just let them melt. Maybe let the elbows bend and let them fall down to your sides. Find your active mountain pose, your big, beautiful Tadasana pose. Take a breath. And this time, as you exhale, dip your chin to your chest, bend the knees. Your fingertips are still reaching for the ground, and we're coming into an easy forward fold. Now, it's the start of class. It doesn't have to be the deepest forward fold you've ever done. Maybe it is a little bit deeper than mine. Maybe you're a little more shallow, and that's okay. But notice, now we do want to let that head be heavy. And even though this is a kind of relaxing, gentle position, it's still active. Press down into your feet, suction, cup your little arches. Your inner thighs are still pulling and toning towards one another. And we're definitely still lifting our low belly up and in. Did you let your shoulders slide up to your ears, or are they staying down the back? Even in our forward fold, your abdominal muscles should be engaged to help create that gentle forward fold. Bring your hands to the tops of your shins or your thighs, whatever's more accessible. Actively press into your legs and reach the top of your head forward. Our little half lift is one of those poses we often move through pretty quickly in, say, a vinyasa class or a slow flow class, but it's still an active position. Obviously, my back is working. My sitting bones are reaching towards the wall behind me, my head is reaching towards the wall in front of me, and my shoulders are still opening up across the chest. Of course the low belly is in. Of course the low back is long. Take a big sip of air in here. Exhale, drip forward. Inhale again, press your hands into your legs. Reach the top of your head forward. Exhale, let that go. One more time. Inhale, reach the top of your head forward, your tail back. Cinch the waist, open up those shoulders, take a breath, and then let it go, bend the knees, and slowly roll yourself all the way up to standing. Now, in a more traditional yoga class, you might find that people swan dive forward or back into forward fold, and just by that, you might see someone lift up and then lightly arch back and round forward, or kind of swim and arch up, and there's not inherently anything necessarily wrong with that, but that can be a lot on our back if we're newer to yoga students. It can feel really nice later on when we feel really in control of that low back and our abdominal muscles, but at first, if you're just getting used to it, or even if maybe you're a little bit tired today, that swan dive, that arch forward, it's a lot on the lumbar spine, so don't feel like you have to do that. The roll down is usually a little more gentle. One more time, let's inhale, lift our hands up really high, press down into your feet. This is our great big Tadasana pose, lifting up to the sky. Take a big inhale, soften the arms down, tuck your chin to chest, bend the knees, round and roll forward into your lovely little forward fold. Hands to the tops of your shins, inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, slowly roll yourself all the way up to standing. Go ahead, walk your feet together. Big toes will touch, little space between the heels. Think of zipping up through the inner thighs even more. It's like we've got a great big rubber band around our outer thighs or a pencil skirt. Belly button up and in, and then from here we're going to sit back into our chair pose, also known as fierce pose or Utkatasana. But in our chair pose, this is obviously an active position. Bring one hand to your stomach and one hand to your back. This is a Beyonce booty moment that can happen quite frequently. Belly button in. My sitting bones are reaching towards kind of the back corner of the mat. I am sealing those inner thighs together. I am drawing my ribs towards one another, opening up across my chest. And now do once more, reach your fingertips nice and far away. It's like you're trying to reach your sitting bones down as far away from you as you can, while those fingertips reach across and away. So you are so long from your hips through your side body out your fingertips. Take a great big inhale. Big breath out. Inhale, stand tall, both hands lift nice and high. Exhale, forward fold, drop your chin to chest and roll down, this time keeping the knees together. Let those fingertips dangle. Maybe our legs begin to straighten as we forward fold. Maybe we keep a soft bend in our knees. It's okay either way. Nod the head a little. Shake it yes and no. As you feel ready, hands to shins. Inhale again, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Bend the knees, roll yourself all the way up to standing. Excellent. Again, we're going to sit back in our chair pose. Take a seat, reach your fingertips nice and far away. Almost try and rotate from underneath the armpits, reaching those fingertips so long, so straight. Take a big sip of air in here. Big breath out. We'll hold our chair pose for just a few breaths, and I want you to look down. Do you see your toes, or are your knees covering them? If your knees are totally covering them up, can you lightly rock back? That might mean you need to sit up a little taller, and that's okay, but you should just be able to barely see those little tippy toes of yours, so that we know that our weight is nice and balanced. Do you feel like there's any pressure in your low back? Do you want to bring one hand to your stomach, one hand to your back, just so you know what's going on there? It's always okay. Take one more big, full breath in, easy breath out. From here, we'll immediately forward fold. Dip your chin to your chest, bring your hands down, just roll down. Maybe the fingertips dangle to the ground. Maybe it feels nice to catch the legs. Whether our knees are bent or straight is totally up to you, but soften that head down. Take a moment here. Do you want to be totally still? Do you want to breathe in, maybe especially to the back of our spine, just encouraging those little vertebrae to soften, the head to relax, letting those shoulders open up, but still, they're engaged. They're down the back. They're not sliding up to your ears at all. Bend the knees. Slowly roll yourself all the way up to standing. One more time, let's sink back in our chair pose. So sit your little self down, reach those fingertips nice and far away. This time we're going to bring our hands to a little prayer pose in front of our chest. I want you to think of pressing your thumbs into your sternum and opening up your elbows from side to side. Do we feel like we're caving in here? Use your hands pressed together and open up and across. Belly button still up and in. Maybe look down again and make sure those toes are visible, and pause right here. Now, a lot of times you'll see instructors do big twist in our chair pose. Twists are great, but what often happens, and I'm going to turn this way just so you can see me a wee bit better, is people twist to the detriment of taking their butt from side to side. That's not what we want. Everything needs to stay in alignment as we do our little twist here. That means we're probably not going to twist very big at all. Imagine someone is physically holding your hips. All I want you to do is keep your thumbs touching your chest. Take a big inhale. And as you exhale, just lightly kind of reach your prayer almost towards the corner of your mat. So it's not big at all. We're twisting from our belly button and up the spine, not from our hips. Take a great big inhale. Exhale back to center. Hold there for another little breath. Exhale, twist to the other side. Now again, it's not a big twist at all. I am just almost trying to move my shoulders over and across rather than really, hiking my hips over so it can look like I'm doing a deeper twist. It's not about that at all. Big inhale. Back to center. Reach your fingertips further away. Maybe sit just a little bit deeper. Take a big inhale. And then forward fold. Drop your chin to your chest, roll forward. Let your head hang. Maybe bend those knees. Maybe you straighten. Maybe it's time to kind of move and sway the hip side to side. Do what works for your body. Now slowly, once more, bend the knees. Roll yourself all the way up to standing. Open your feet once more to about hip distance apart. We're coming to our warrior one pose. Now, feet stay hip distance apart in our warrior one pose, which means all I'm going to do is bend my knee and step my right foot back. Now, lightly turn your heel out and away and your toes away from your body. And the idea here is that we want to square our hips forward. They might be more towards the corner of your mat, and that's okay. But you'll see some people try and take their warrior as wide as they possibly can. But look at that. The minute I did that, I arched my back, which is not what we're going for. Instead, hands to hips. Take a moment here. Lightly bend your front knee and make sure your knee and toes are pointing in line with one another, just like in your chair pose. You should be able to see your toe. Your toes should not be hidden by your knee. Belly button up and in. Think of lifting up and out of the waist. Think of sealing the back pinky toe down to the ground. And then reach those fingertips up, up, up. Imagine I'm holding your ears once more, just like in your mountain pose. Think about opening across the chest. How do we feel right here? Strong, powerful, like a confident little warrior yogi? I hope so. Now we can just be here for a moment. If we need to bend our back knee or if we need to adjust the severity of the ankle and the foot, just depending on what's going on in your ankle, your foot, that's always okay. Know that you should make modifications based on your body. I don't know what's going on with you today. You do, so you should always do what feels good to you. Take a big inhale. Big breath out. Inhale, reach those fingertips up even higher. And then from here, all I want us to do a couple of times is just straighten our front leg and bend our front leg. So it's not a great big movement, but we are finding some mobility in our knee, our hip, our ankle. Last one, bend the knee, pause. Do you notice maybe now we could reach our foot a little further forward and take that warrior one a bit wider? If that's not in the cards for us today, that's okay. Just stay exactly where you are. Reach those fingertips up a little bit higher. Take a big breath. And then relax. Go ahead and hop that foot in. Shake anything out. Take your feet hip distance once more. Find your mountain pose. Be active. Immediately pull the belly button in. Immediately turn on the thud. Broaden across the chest. Inhale, swim the hands up, 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 reaching your fingertips high. Exhale, let them melt down. Lightly bend the knees and let's step our opposite foot back behind us. Now again, notice, it's kind of about trying to see what the hips are doing from side to side. We don't want to fully open our hips off to the side. The idea is they're kind of reaching forward, but anatomically that's not always going to happen with every body, so no big deal. Take a moment here and just like in our chair pose, hand to stomach, hand to back. Are we dumping forward? I hope not. Belly button in. Think of me standing behind you, grabbing your waist and pulling you up and away from your feet. At the same time, think about pulling your front heel towards your back foot. So we're activating those inner thighs, really turning on the whole low body. And then reach the fingertips up, up, up. Take a moment here. Are you splaying your ribs? I might have been doing that a moment ago. I have a habit of doing that myself. I have to remind myself a lot. Ribs together, fingertips high, belly engaged. Give yourself time, again, just to sink, to settle, to enjoy this very powerful pose. And then decide, you know what, maybe I can reach my toes a little bit further forward. Maybe I can, take it a bit bigger, but know that your pose isn't about what it looks like, it's about what it feels like. So your legs may be further away than mine or closer together. Honestly, I've got very short arms and legs, so mine tends to be a little bit more narrow than my very long-legged friends out there. So no worries if we don't look exactly alike. Just like we did on the other side, we're going to straighten and bend our leg a couple of times. Your hands can stay up. We could take them off to the side if that helps with balance, or even to our hips, so we know what's going on in our pelvis. But press through the foot, straighten the leg, and then rebend the knee. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. One more time, and then find that mountain pose once more. Sit tall, sit straight. Think of reaching your sitting bones down to the ground, lifting out of the waist. Maybe one more time you want a big stretch from your hips through your side body, out your fingertips. And then relax. Hop the foot in. No, you can wiggle it out between sides. Let's take our feet together once more. Toes touch. Seal the inner thighs in. Low belly pulls in. Low back so long. Inhale, sit back. Find your chair pose. Once more, reach those fingertips so far away. It's like I'm holding your hips, hugging your waist. I'm pulling you down while you are reaching your fingertips away. Take a big inhale. Bring your hands to your heart center once more. I'm going to turn this way so you can see me a bit better. We're going to do those tiny twists again. It's not about how big it is. It's moving from the spine. Take a big inhale. Twist from your belly button. Look over your right shoulder. Look back down at your knees. Did they yank over to one side? Did your hips scooch over? I hope not. Bring it back to center if you did. Return center. A little twist other side. Return center. Reach your fingertips further away. Sit a little deeper. Take a big inhale. Dip your chin to your chest. Forward fold once more. Let the head be heavy. Not the head. Shake out the hips, anything you like. And then bend the knees, roll yourself all the way up to standing. We're going to come to our warrior two. Unlike warrior one, our feet will now be in line with one another, not even with our hips. So start with them together for just a minute. Bring your hands to your hips, bend your knee. Now this time I'm going to step my foot straight behind me, and it's almost like there is a tightrope that both my front heel and my back arch are standing on top of. And you know what? If you're a little bit more wide, because that's just what our hips do, and it's more like the train track instead, train tracks instead of a tightrope, it's not the end of the world, but we are technically going for bringing our back arch in line with our front heel. Now, just like in our warrior one, we want to make sure the knee and toes are in the same direction and that we can see our toes at all time. Now, for warrior two, take your hands nice and far away from one another. Now, do you see that I'm still trying to lightly square my hips forward? That's never anatomically going to happen in my body with my feet placed the way they are. But we can also think of warrior two as a little bit of a torso twist. My hips, I'm going to point towards the front corner of my mat, and then from my belly button, I'm going to open my hands out and away. Often I see people taking them really wide and pointing their hips away from one another. What that often does, you see my knee immediately sagged inward. That puts so much pressure on my ankle, my knee, my hip. Not ideal. We want to keep it as narrow as we need to, that we can feel supported and secure in these very delicate joints. So sit tall, sit straight, reach the hands out and away, and remember, it's that twist from the belly button, not the hips, that opens up our chest side to side. Just like in many of my classes, I say imagine there's a table underneath your palms, you're pressing down into that table, you're opening up across the chest. Give yourself a moment to arrive here. Stand tall, stand straight, stand proud, be a beautiful little warrior. Take a big, deep inhale. Great big breath out. Another full inhale. Big sigh out. Now we can hold here. And often, as I mentioned, a Hatha class is a little bit more of standing and holding, but I will admit, I am a mover. So Hatha is not always the easiest for me to do. If you're happy holding, enjoying this pose, just, activating your muscles right here because everything should be active, that's great. But just like we did in our warrior one, a couple of times we can straighten and bend. Inhale, straighten and bend. And usually as I start to find that mobility, especially in my lower body, I then notice, I can reach my toes a little further away and then take it a little deeper. I still feel like I'm standing tall and straight. I'm lifting out of my waist. I'm reaching out and away, but it was a little more gentle for me to get into that deeper stretch, that deeper warrior after a bit of mobility in my body. Now we can hold right here, but one of my favorite things to do in warrior is a reverse warrior. Take your backhand and bring it to your hip. You keep that little hip, that little glute nice and stationary. Flip your front palm up to the sky. And then from here, I want you to start to lift your hand up. Now, maybe we just go to a diagonal angle because we're already beginning to arch to the back. None of that. If we feel like we're still tall and straight and we can keep lifting out of our waist, maybe reach the fingertips up to the sky. For me, the more I hang on to my hip, the more I know what's going on in my body. Take a great big inhale. Exhale, return. Now from here, all I want to do is bring both hands to our hips, straighten your front leg, and pivot all 10 toes forward. Belly button up and in. Notice, are we kind of dumping forward? Usually that happens to me here. Stand taller, stand straighter. Take a great big breath, reach the fingertips up high. Exhale, dip your chin to your chest, bend the knees, and find a forward fold with our legs nice and wide. We can sway, we can wiggle, you can nod the head a little bit. And then from here, let's heel toe our feet underneath our hips once more. Bend the knees and roll yourself all the way up to standing. Come back to the front of your mat. Hands back to our hips. And I'm going to stand this way so you can see me a little bit better. We're going to do our warrior to the other side. Start by bending your knees. And now for me, that means taking my left foot back and keeping my right foot forward. but you might have done the other side, and that's okay. Just like we did on our first side. Remember, this is where we want our front heel and our back arch in line with one another. Lift out of the waist. Take a moment, try and notice where your hips are. You can even bring your hands to your hips like I am right now, so you can see, are they pointing this way? Are they all the way forward? We want them lightly towards the front corner. Once you find that position, stand tall, stand straight, and then open up across the chest and fan your fingertips nice and wide away from one another. Press down into the imaginary table. Now on this side, I want us to think about one additional thing. Again, imagine pulling your front heel towards your back arch. If you've got a mat underneath you, it's almost like you're trying to slide your feet together with the mat, like you're trying to bring the mat in. That's how active our inner thighs should be. Press down into that table, lift high, find that lovely, strong, confident warrior two. And then just as we did on the other side, maybe a few times just straighten and bend. Just enjoying that mobility, that freedom to move in our hip, our knee, our ankle. And after a couple of times, you might realize, you know what? Okay, now I can crawl a little further forward and sink a bit deeper. For me, my thought is very active here. I am squeezing that position or that little place so much I could hold a pencil here right now. Turn on that area, draw those inner thighs towards one another, reach those fingertips nice and far away. Beautiful, beautiful job. Again, we can hold here. Warrior two is often a favorite pose of a lot of my students. It just feels good, doesn't it? Now when we're ready, if we want to take that reverse warrior, bring your hand to your hip, notice what's going on there, flip your palm, and start to reach it towards the corner of the room. Take a minute with your your fingers reaching to the corner of the room. Do you feel like you're arching? Have you let go of any of that control of our low body? Bring your attention back to those places, and then maybe keep lifting up. Smile, it feels so good. Reach those fingertips nice and high. I'm almost thinking of spiraling my pinky in towards my ear and then lifting up a little higher. Take one more big inhale. Exhale, let it go. Straighten the front leg again, pivot all 10 toes forward, and then this time bend the knees, drop the head, roll down. Instead of keeping our toes pointing forward like we did on the first side, if it feels good in your body, you can turn the toes away. So you've got a little bit of a turnout there, and even get into your inner hips a little. Maybe sway the weight back and forth. Maybe lightly bend and straighten, and they might not straighten all the way. That's okay. And then eventually point all 10 toes forward one more time. Bend the knees. Slowly roll yourself all the way up to standing. One more time, let's come back to the top of our mat. Feet about hip distance apart. Hands to our hips. Shoulders back. Head lifts nice and high. Relax the fingertips down. Take a great big full inhale. Big breath out. One more deep inhale. Exhale, close the eyes. Drop the chin to chest, bend the knees. Roll yourself all the way down. And then bring your hands to the mat. Step back and find a nice little child's pose. Now, child's pose is one of those that's very personal. Knees can be together or apart. That depends, on your hips, but that can also depend on your back. When my knees are open and I reach my fingertips nice and far away, my spine is usually straight, and it's more about lengthening and stretching through the spine and getting a little bit of a hip opener. When my legs are together, I'm usually going for a more relaxed position. It's almost like I'm just draping over my thighs, letting my head come to the mat. Sometimes it feels good to keep the arms forward, but often I'll even bring them to my ankles, to my heels, and let my shoulders really round forward here. Just give yourself a moment to settle. Take a big filling breath in. Easy sigh out. Let your eyes close. Let your body relax. Know that you did such a wonderful job. For some of us out there, slowing down our practice, doing poses that we hold for a few breaths, can be challenging. So if you are like me and you often gravitate towards continuous movement, maybe it's good to return to this style of class, to give yourself that challenge of doing something that's not quite always your cup of tea. If you're someone that enjoys those long, static positions of breathing, that's wonderful. I hope you enjoyed class today. And maybe next time you can challenge yourself by finding something that flows a little faster, shaking it up. Wherever you are, though, give yourself a mental little pat on the back. Ask your face to relax, to soften. Let your shoulders just fall wherever they may. And then eventually, roll yourself all the way up to an easy seat. As always, a real pat on the back now. Thank yourself and go grab a little snack, a little treat, and I will meet you for our wine, cheese, and yoga, please little chat. Well, on to our topic. It is, in fact, our second wine, cheese, and yoga, please evening, and I am so excited. Again, unfortunately, it's the middle of the day for me, so I can't drink wine in the middle of the day, but I've got myself a fun, lovely little drink. We'll see how it is. It's a basil berry something or other. On to our topic at hand for our lovely wine, cheese, and yoga, please. And it's one that I think is really hard for all of us, but one that I think is so important, and that's how we talk to ourselves. Now, I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life, even right now, where sometimes I don't talk to myself as kindly as I would pretty much anyone else in my life, and that's not something that's great. No, we need to, to truly love ourselves, to truly, find self-care and be a kind, wonderful human being. We've got to love ourselves and talk to ourselves that way as well. You might find it difficult to take praise from other people. We won't go into this today, but there are things like praise practices where you let someone tell you wonderful, fabulous compliments about yourself without that kind of shunning away feeling, that feeling of, oh no, don't say that, that's not true. But ultimately, if you can't talk to yourself that way, you definitely can't let someone else praise you. So I think it starts with being kind and lovely and wonderful to yourself. That's pretty good. This could be a new guilty pleasure of mine. I like bubbly drinks. I've, of course, got my teeny tiny cutting board with crackers and cheese, and I guess I don't have crackers today. I have lovely little pretzel chips. Speaking to yourself in a positive light is hard. It's easy for us to continuously kind of berate ourselves or, kick ourselves when we're already down. But ultimately, that's not helping you. That's not helping your loved ones around you. A handful of years ago, I had this kind of realization after a really rough breakup that ultimately, I have to be the center of my own universe. No one else is responsible for my happiness except me. Of course, I have friends and family out there that love me and want to see me happy. But, at the end of the day, I have to make the steps. I have to make the choices that bring joy, that bring abundance, and this feeling of positivity into my own life. And that starts with how I look at myself in the mirror, how I talk to myself, and having this kind of realization was a huge mind shift for me. And I think the first thing that most of us have to kind of realize is it starts with noticing when you're not being very kind to yourself. Is it, when you eat a little bit of extra cookies now and then? Is it when you think to yourself, shoot, I didn't get on my mat, I didn't work out today? Is it because you feel like you didn't get to go to every little event your kid does? All of these things we could sit here and beat ourselves up for, but ultimately that doesn't make any of those things go away. It just makes us feel worse for them. So you can always acknowledge that there are things that you want to do better, that you want to improve upon in your life. There's nothing wrong with that. We can tell ourselves, maybe we don't need so much sugar every single day, but it doesn't, negate the fact that you ate the cookie in the first place. So instead of sitting there and saying, oh, I feel so terrible about that, you know what? Acknowledge you had a delicious cookie. It's okay. No big deal. And instead, start from there, taking those times to kind of notice, where am I being, the meanest to myself? Where am I the most unkind to myself? And then we'll work our way from there. This is an herbal sparkling water. It was definitely like an impulse purchase at one of those fancy grocery stores where you spend way too much money, but are fun to shop in. Yeah, so it was probably a bad thing for me to know about because it is really tasty and I will probably drink more of them. Once you do start to acknowledge these moments in your life where you are being probably less than kind, less than loving, the next step is a really easy question. Often I just remind myself, or I ask myself, would I speak to my friend like this? Would I speak to a loved one? Hey, would I even speak to a stranger? Kind of like how I'm talking to myself right now. If the answer is no, you probably need to step back a few paces and reevaluate what you're saying to yourself. How can you be a little bit nicer? And again, that doesn't mean that we can't want to change certain habits, certain behaviors to build ourselves up in a better way. It's just doing it from a point of love. You wouldn't tell one of your friends that, messed up on, a test or something. Well, you might as well just quit. Who cares? You've already messed this one thing up. You're never gonna, get ahead. No, you'd encourage them and say, yes, keep trying. The next test will be better. You'll feel better the next time you do it. That's what we want to say to ourselves. We want to be that positive champion for you, because if you can't lift yourself up, if you can't be your own champion, who else is gonna be? So remind yourself in those moments when you feel like you just want to, get mad at yourself for not doing something exactly perfectly correct. What would you say to your best friend? You would lift them up. You'd be their champion. You'd encourage them to keep moving forward. You have to do that for yourself. I think this is a fontina cheese. It's pretty tasty. I've made a grilled cheese sandwich with fontina cheese before, and it was delicious. Another easy way to start to bring these positive thoughts into your head, lovely ways to talk to yourself, is buying some affirmation cards. Or even just looking on Pinterest. You don't even have to buy them. Affirmation cards, they sound a little cheesy. I will totally be honest. I think the first time that I saw them, I was kind of like, what's the point of this? And you know what? I love them. I have a ton of sets of them. They're really, really nice. They're beautifully little kind of decorated cards with lovely quotes and kind of positive I am statements. I have one that's called, I think, I am the universe, and it has things like I am worthy, I am loved, I am enough. And then it has kind of a description of these things. They're some of my favorite tools when I'm feeling a little down, when I'm feeling a little discouraged, how I can make myself feel better. And again, it's not like you have to actually purchase them. You can go on Pinterest, you can Google, affirmation phrases, affirmation quotes, and you'll find tons of them. And again, I get that it sounds a little silly, a little woo-woo, but it makes a big difference in, the thoughts that are in my head at that moment, especially if I'm having kind of a slump of a day. Sometimes I just pull out the deck, shuffle it around, grab one or two, and I take a moment to think about what those things really mean to me. And that can also be a journaling prompt for you. I use them to do a lot of journaling. Sometimes I just write down whatever the phrase might be in my journal and I decorate it because I like doing that. Other times I use that as kind of a reflective moment, or sometimes it's even, turns into a little bit of meditation for me. Just repeating, I am enough. I am loved. I am worthy. These phrases can be really powerful when you start to use them and when you start to believe them in your own body. In the meantime, I'll have a little piece of cracker and cheese, some nice yummy cheddar. And along with journaling, this might again sound a little bit silly, but if you buy the affirmation cards and you find one that really speaks to you, maybe tape it up on your mirror, or tape a bunch up on your mirror or on your door. Putting these phrases in places where you will constantly see them, where you'll be reminded of them, can make a huge difference. And again, if you don't want to purchase them, no big deal. Grab a scrap piece of paper, write out one of those and tape it to your mirror. That way, every time you go into the bathroom and you wash your hands and you're sitting there, you look up and you see a positive thought, a wonderful, fabulous, moment to praise yourself and to bring a little positivity into what you're saying to yourself that day. And some hummus, because who doesn't want some hummus with their crackers and cheese? Now, speaking of the mirror, it's also one of those places that for some of us can be really uncomfortable. Maybe we don't want to always look at ourselves in the mirror. Or maybe that's when we're probably the most hard on ourselves, because I have been that person standing in the mirror thinking about all of my imperfections. But I want you to turn that around, or at least try to. Now, when I come to the mirror all the time, I find something about myself to say in my head, or sometimes even out loud if I'm being, a little extra. And but I say that to myself. I tell myself, oh, your eyelashes look great today, or I feel like I taught a really great class today. People really enjoyed that. Just taking anything, big or small. Maybe I cooked an amazing dinner, who knows? Or just the fact that I am a fabulous, wonderful, amazing person. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I think bringing these kind of thoughts and phrases into your daily life as often as you can make a huge difference in how we feel. And again, the more often you do it, the less it feels like work, like a challenge. Instead, it's just the usual. It's just how you talk to yourself normally. Finding these times that you can, easily incorporate love for yourself goes such a long way. I could totally live off of just like hummus and pita chips and crackers and cheese. I could live my life on tiny foods all the time. Well, I hope some of those ideas kind of can help you along your way. I know that it can be hard to talk to yourself that way, and it can be a very new sort of concept for some of us, and it might feel a little bit uncomfortable. But I assure you, the more often you do this, the more often you speak to yourself in this manner, the easier it becomes, the more natural it becomes, and then the less likely you have to think about it. It's just going to become your natural way of talking to yourself and looking at yourself. And not only that, but how you look at the world around you. You'll start to find a little bit of extra cheer and positivity when it starts from within. I hope you enjoyed our lovely little wine, cheese, and yoga video today. Remember, tomorrow is a Choose Your Own Adventure Saturday. Maybe you'll join me for another class. Maybe you'll take off an entire day and just spend the day cheering yourself on. I'm happy for you no matter what, and I cannot wait to see you on Sunday.